welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about videos that I really want to prioritize this year, and this is outside of the books that come out this year that I'm really looking forward to. These are books that came out either last year or years prior, so I'm putting it here so that I have some accountability that I absolutely will be reading these books. I hope. Please hold me accountable. But yeah, let's get into it. All right, so starting out my list for this year, I want to spend some time reading Jamaica Kincaid. It's been a very long time since I've read any of her work, and the book that I read was Annie John. So I want to read Annie John again. I want to read the autobiography of my mother, and then I also want to read Lucy. There's Lucy. There's the autobiography of my mother. And yeah, so I'm definitely wanting to get back into her work this year. So I'm hoping that these three. Next is a book that I've truly been lugging around for such a long time. This is They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us by Hanif Abdurraqib. I don't have an excuse as to why I haven't read this book yet. I just haven't prioritized it, and I feel strongly that this is going to be the year that I do that. So next is another book that I've been dying to read but haven't made the time for it. It's And Then He Sang a Lullaby by Ani Kayode Somtochukwu. This book it says it's a powerful meditation on what love costs in a society steeped in homophobia. It takes place in Nigeria. It's a queer fiction novel. It sounds like it's a coming of age as well too. So it's the things that I enjoy. I don't know why I haven't prioritized it. No real reason. Next is a book that I discovered through Bookstagram, I think last month. It's Set My Heart on Fire by Izumi Suzuki. It's a very small book. Porochista Kakpour did a review of it, and it sounded really interesting. It's described as, it's also translated. It's a candid, intimate exploration of passion, music, and transgression. It's set in the underground bar and club scene of 1970s Tokyo, and it talks about the story of Izumi in her turbulent 20s through a series of disarmingly frank vignettes. It sounded really interesting from the review, but then also just in general. So yeah, for translated fiction as well, that's another category that I try to prioritize every year. So looking forward to that. Next is Hombrecito by Santiago Jose Sanchez. This came out last year and it got great reviews, and I bought it last year. I just didn't prioritize it. It's described as an electric, breathtaking novel about a young queer immigrant living between cultures, between different ideas of himself. So another identity coming of age novel that, again, very me. I just didn't prioritize it. Next is Sweetness in the Skin by Ishi Robinson. Another book that I've truly heard nothing but great things about. And it's described as Sweetness in the Skin is a funny and heartbreaking story about a girl figuring out who she is and what she's capable of and where she truly belongs. Again, we've got identity, coming of age, all the things that I enjoy. So yeah, I haven't seen anyone that has said anything bad about this book, and it's blurbed by Charlene Carr, who wrote Hold My Girl, which is a book that I just, every time I see someone talking about it, I like pause to read what they have to say because that book was just insane. But so this one for sure. Next is My Mother Cursed My Name by Anameli, hope I'm saying that right, Salgado Reyes. This is another book that I was supposed to read last year that I simply didn't. This one is described as 3 generations of fiercely strong and stubborn Mexican-American mothers and daughters face grief head-on as they attempt to shed generational trauma and discover the true meaning of home in this lyrical, magical, realist novel. I love a generational story. I love everything about that description. So, you know, when I got it, I was really excited to read it, and then I just got distracted by many other books, but I'm gonna definitely try to prioritize this one this year. Next is a book that a friend of mine, Key on Bookstagram, was raving about when it came out. She also was able to do an IG live conversation with the author, and that sold me even more. And that's Devil is Fine by John Bircher. It's described as Devil is Fine is full of mystery, magic, dark comedy, and heart. John Bircher writes Black father and son intimacies with a singular virtuosity. I love this novel. And that's Disha Filial, who wrote The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, which is one of my also all-time favorite short story collections. So yeah, I just didn't have time to read it last year. I bought it last year and it's just been sitting here, but I'm definitely going to try to prioritize it, especially after hearing from the author. Like, I was very sold. Everyone talks about the exploration of grief in this book, so I'm interested in that. Next is a book that I don't think it came out last year. Yes, see, I still have the paper in it. It came out in 2022, actually. Oh, I didn't even realize. So I got this from the publisher and it came with stickers. You see what happens when you don't open stuff? Anyways, this is The Town of Babylon, and it's by Alejandro Varela. This is described as Alejandro Varela's promising debut is filled with insight about the past that produced our wounds and how, despite having answers to lifelong questions, it holds no redemption. Intimate and jarring. Ooh. It says it's a novel about the essential nature of community and maintaining one's own health. The Town of Babylon is an intimate portrait of queer, racial, and class identity, a call to reevaluate the ties of societal bonds and the systems in which they are forged. I think this sounds like a very timely book, if you ask me. I'm very curious to see how I feel about it. Again, Disha, same author, blurbed this one as well as Brian Washington. Those are some, oh, and Robert Jones Jr. Those are authors that I love and love their work. So it's definitely up there for sure for me, and I'm gonna read this year. Next is a book that was truly all over. It was all over the internet last year, TikTok, Instagram. It made many lists, and that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is described as when a teenager vanishes from her Adirondack summer camp, two worlds collide. I've heard many, many great things about this. The only thing people complain about is that it is a bit of a chunky book. Let's see how it is 475 pages long. So yeah, she's thick, but I've only heard great things about it. So yeah, I'm gonna try to prioritize this one too. Next is My Friends by Hisham Matar. Again, this is a book that was everywhere last year and didn't get the opportunity to prioritize it, but it's described as a luminous novel of friendship, family, and the unthinkable realities of exile from the Booker Prize nominated Pulitzer Prize winning author of The Return. Yeah, it also says the trick time plays is to lull us into the belief that everything lasts forever, and although nothing does, we continue inside our dream. So yeah, again, another book that I've only heard fantastic reviews about, so I think I'm going to definitely prioritize reading this year as well. Next is a book that I was so excited about, and then I truly got distracted by all of the other books that came out last year. But that's Memory Peace by Lisa Ko. This one is described as you can see, I used the inside of my hardcovers as bookmarks. I did start it. I got to page 27, and then I don't know what happened. So yeah, I'm gonna try to finish this year, but it's described as a visionary novel of friendship, art, and ambition that asks, what is the value of a meaningful life? Again, a pretty timely book, I would say, given the world that we live in. This is another book that I have not heard anything bad about, so I'm definitely going to try to prioritize it and finish it. I'm probably gonna have to start over because I don't remember what happened in the first 27 pages, but I'm looking forward to reading it for sure. Next is a book that I probably wouldn't have picked up. So I got this recommendation from Femi Aguda, who wrote Ghost Roots. I was able to talk to her about what her favorite book was last year, and she said this one, and it's again titled My Lesbian Novel by Renee Gladman. It's a very small book. What My Lesbian Novel is described as is the narrator of my lesbian novel is Renee Gladman, which is also the author, an artist and writer who has produced the same acclaimed body of experimental art and prose as real-life Renee Gladman. Interesting. And who is now being interviewed by an unnamed interlocutor about a project in process, a seeming departure from the other works, a lesbian romance. Between reflections on art making and on the genre of lesbian romance, a romance novel takes shape on the page alongside the interview, which sometimes skips whole years between questions so that time and aging become part of the process. The result is a beautifully orchestrated dialogue between reflection and desire, or clarity and confusion, between the pleasures of formula and the pleasures of freedom, and the unspooling of sentences over time. It sounds like it's going to be a little weird, but also I feel like I'm going to leave with something once I read this book. Femi Aguda, I do trust her recommendation, so I'll be reading that this year as well too. Next is a book that I didn't see a lot of people talk about last year. That's when I got it, but it sounded really interesting. It's A Person is a Prayer by Amar Kalia. It's described as an intensely moving, lyrical, and wryly humorous novel about a family whose story of migration from Kenya and India to England is told over 3 separate days across 6 decades. yeah, I love a timeline jump in books. I very much so appreciate that. I don't really know a lot, or haven't really read a lot about the migration between Kenya and India in general. I do know a little bit of the history, so I'm wondering how that's going to be discussed in this book, but looking forward to hopefully reading that this year as well too. And last but not least is another book that I didn't see a lot of people talking about last year. I think this book also came out last year. This is a young adult book called Girls Like Her by Melanie Sumrow. It's described as a wealthy businessman is dead and 15-year-old Ruby Monroe is in a Dallas jail awaiting trial for his murder. Ruby has no one she can count on, no one except her state-appointed caseworker, a woman named Cadence Ware. In Ruby's experience, that's not anyone she can trust. Told through a collection of letters, meeting notes, news articles, court transcripts, and more, Girls Like Her is a riveting and unflinching tale of the truths so often lost in the American justice system and one girl's fight to be heard. I feel like this is going to be sad, obviously, but I feel like I'm going to really enjoy reading it, especially with the way that it says it's written with like the court transcripts. Oh, you can kind of see an example of that on this page. But yeah, as I mentioned before, I love young adult. And I feel like I read a lot of young adult last year, but not ever enough, to be honest. But yeah, I know that list looks long, and it is, but I really, really want to be more intentional with my reading this year. And that is also why I don't actually have a numerical goal for my reading this year. I came to the decision to just separate myself from any sort of numerical goal this year because although I surpassed my reading goal last year, my reading goal last year was 85 books. By the end of the year, I read 111. Although I surpassed it, before I got to my reading goal last year, I kind of felt a lot of pressure to meet that goal, which is kind of crazy when you think about it because I'm the one that set the goal. Why would I be putting extra pressure on myself? Especially with something that's supposed to be fun and relaxing. And it felt a bit ridiculous, if I'm being honest. So this year, I'm not prioritizing a numerical goal. However, I am prioritizing doing a lot of reading challenges. If you haven't followed me yet, I am on Storygraph. And the good thing about Storygraph is that a lot of the reading challenges or that you see online, you can follow them on Storygraph. So I'm just pulling up my phone here to share some of the challenges that I have signed up for. So some of the challenges that I'm a part of this year is 20 books by Black folks 2025, and that's hosted by Melanated Reader, Crystal, on Instagram. She's also hosting 20 books by Black women challenge, and that is also hosted by Melanated Reader. And then the other one that I am a part of is the 2025 Something Bookish Reading Challenge. And that one is hosted by, let me get her at, Lip Gloss Mafia on Instagram. And then lastly, I'm also a part of the 10 African Books Challenge, and that's by Black Girl with Books. So when I found these challenges, I already kind of read these things anyways, and I feel like it's also a great way for me to track some of the books I'm reading in a meaningful way to make sure that I'm hitting all the points that I want to hit for this year, and I'm prioritizing the things that really mean a lot to me instead of just like meeting a number goal. So instead of a numerical goal, I'm focused on the reading challenges that I'm a part of. If you're a part of any reading challenges that you think that I'd be interested in, please let me know. I'm always open to join. I document all the books I'm reading on Storygraph, but I'm also really trying to prioritize my reading journal this year. I finished 2 books I haven't put in there yet, so I need to go ahead and do that before I get too far behind. But it's been nice to have a journal with me as I'm reading, because sometimes when I'm reading, there's like certain parts that are happening that I feel really important to me. And then when I go to write a review about it, I have forgotten about it, or I don't remember what was said directly so that I can quote it. So having that reading journal has been really helpful. And I look forward to being able to read all of the books and what I thought about them at the time at the end of the year. And I'll probably share that here too. That is how I'm approaching reading this year. It's different from the years that I read before. Oh, actually not really. Before apps and Bookstagram and stuff like that, I used to just read however many books I wanted to read, when I wanted to read. And that felt really freeing. I want to get back to just focusing on the books that I want to read and not feeling any sort of external pressure to read the newest books or to make sure I'm meeting a specific reading goal. Like, I don't really want to focus on that. I want to focus on reading the books that I really want to read and enjoying them. And if I don't enjoy them, then I'll talk about it. But yeah, so those are my plans for this year. If you have any sort of reading goals that you're trying out, please let me know. I'd love to talk it through. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching and for being here. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.